Hi, love. Hello, and welcome to Co-Creative Healing Journey. My name is Greta. I am a healer. And here on the channel, I am hosting an ongoing healing process where I bring through messages from Spirit. And then I continue those messages over on my Patreon where I do intuitive healings. So it's basically a continuation of this setup. And then I draw some cards, and you have Spirit bringing in healing energy and asking you to go into different things, different energies, different perspectives. And it's all very, very powerful. And so that is available over on my Patreon. And then I have a Gumroad where I have written out some healing processes. And they're going to be available to you in written form, going from very simple energy clearings to longer processes that can take months to work through. So if that speaks to you, all the links are in the description box. And I have set it up. So we are doing departure this week. This is the first life messages in the general area of your life. In this reading, we're going to be talking about departure within we'll see how Spirit brings it through, but it's going to be your life in general, right? And then Saturday we do love and relationships. And this week we are talking about calling. So all of that came through in the soul messages. If you want to check that out, I'm just going to go ahead and see what Spirit wants to talk about here and now. We've got an overall energy of 6th of devotion. Again, this came through in one of the readings. I can't place it, but it makes sense. And then we've got, the messages in the numbers, number 11. One, we're talking about the calling, and finally we have got the first 3 of power. Beautiful. Okay, this is such an interesting message. Look, 6th of devotion is placing you smack dab in the center, where Spirit is talking about you being an unusual kind of person, an unusual kind of being, an unusual soul here on the planet. You have an incredible capacity for faith, and even more that for faith-based actions. And so when we've been talking about departure, I've defined it as a value-based transformation, change, movement away from the status quo, but the core of it being that it's value-based. And so in the same way, Spirit is saying that you have a high capacity for this heart connection here, for being aware of your heart, for being connected to your higher self, for being connected to the higher realms, for being connected to collective energies. And therefore, you have a high capacity already in your makeup, in who you are. You have a higher capacity for departure. And now, the 1111 is representing a calling. And the thing about the 1111 is that it shows very much the energy of seeing signs and being guided specifically through numbers. And when I see the numbers, it reminds me of time, and it's making me think about the energy of the times, the signs of the times, the zeitgeist that we are living in. And through that zeitgeist, there's a calling. And I feel like that's literally this. It's calling, it's resounding. There you go, sorry. It's resounding through humanity, but it's hard to get into focus. It's hard to pinpoint. It's hard to see it in its entirety, but it is there, and it is resounding through the earth. And so there's a calling right now, and Spirit wants you to think about that calling in a very specific way. It's not a calling into the pain of the world. It's not a calling into the problems. It's not a calling into the issue. It's a calling into the higher aspects of you, into your light, your love, your passion, your trust, your visions, your imagination, your care. Also, again, because we're so much in the heart, your care, how much you care about a certain issue, about a certain cause, about a certain event. And that's where you're going to feel this calling the most strongly. And so fundamentally, this calling into serving the world is a calling into your higher self, into a higher state of being. And this card is called power. And the message that was coming through is that oftentimes we think we have to have the power to follow a calling, but really it is the calling that invites the power inside of us. So the more you're going to listen to this calling, the more you're going to grow into the higher version of yourself that in this depiction is completely 100% in alignment with the turning of the galaxies, with the greater cosmic order, let alone how things are unfolding here on the planet, the events and the issues and all that stuff and all that jazz that will follow, that will fall into place. But it's about positioning the calling and knowing where it's taking place, it's not in the world, it's inside of you. And it is inherently linked to who you are, who you truly are. So let's go deeper. We have a Nine of Swords. Okay. Upside down. We have got Nine of Cups. Beautiful. And we have got the Four of Wands upside down. We have got the Hierophant, Major Arcana number 5. And we have got the Seven of Swords upside down. Okay. Such a straightforward message. And we see a lot of yellow here in the cards, which is the solar plexus chakra energy. So a lot about strength and discipline. And again, this giving ourselves the ability to step into power by disciplining our thoughts and our thought patterns and our beliefs. Now, here Spirit is bringing a double messages with these two nines. There's the Nine of Swords upside down, which is representing patterns. It's beliefs that you have about yourself, about who you are, what you value, how valuable you are, how lovable you are, the trust that you have in yourself. It's very much this energy of all of the patterns of self-loathing, self-hatred, all the ways in which you make yourself anxious, you stress yourself out, or the ways in which you are unhappy with who you are, right? Unable to accept yourself as you are. Oh, but I do this and I have this habit and this and that, and I can't do this, and all of this, that self-talk, negative self-talk that's going on. And then next to it, Nine of Cups, there's this energy of, despite all that, you wanting to be happy in life, you having certain dreams, certain wishes, certain hopes. And this energy is talking about how in order to make that happen, yeah, we got to switch this around, which is what I used to hold the cards. In order to make that happen, fundamentally, there's a need for you to shift how you think about yourself, how you see and view yourself. That if you are in this habit of seeing yourself as somebody who is small, who's limited, who is powerless, who is broken, if you're in the habit of, well, like I'm doing with all this stuff, like sweating the small stuff, the small things about yourself, you are going to miss that within the self, there is everything you need to make your dream come true. So that the fullest satisfaction and fulfillment that you're going to gain in this world is going to be an extension of who you are. And so you need to come into a space and a place that is the Four of Wands upside down, which is you being at home with yourself. For me, upside down sometimes references the self. So we have the Four of Wands, which is traditionally a card of home. Upside down, it's you being at home with yourself. It's speaking to authenticity, but in your intentions, in the Wands energy, and the values and the heart space, which is for me the Wands energies. So it's about you being in a space and a place where you're celebrating who you are and you're valuing who you are. And the notion here is that this Four of Wands is the basis, the energetic basis. It's the home, it's the foundation, and we all have it. But if we are not celebrating, valuing, cherishing our own foundation, then we don't have the necessary footing to be able to reach higher. It's that notion that you even have in martial arts, that if you have to do a really good flying kick, then you have to have really good foundation. You have to be really able to connect with the earth and then to jump from there and then to do that kick. You need grounding to reach to the stars. You need to be really good in the smaller aspect of yourself to then grow into something bigger, or at the very least to access that bigger part of you, which just is. It is, even if you didn't do the right thing 5 minutes ago, even if you're screwing up, even if you're not unfolding in the world the way that you think that you should, the way that you would want to, that bigger, greater part of yourself is still there as represented by the Hierophant. And this is Spirit saying very clearly that with this major arcana energy, which for me is a soul energy, but it's also subconscious energy. With the Hierophant here, this calling comes with a way. It comes with instructions that are given to you from, again, that bigger part of yourself to a smaller part of yourself. But with the Seven of Swords, you need to chase away some beliefs, some misunderstandings, some lack of clarity that is keeping you from seeing it clearly. The Hierophant is a wisdom that we have about the guidance from the universe. So The Hierophant is about how we move in the world according to higher knowledge. You have that knowledge within you, and it is there to help you, to guide you, to help to move you forward. But it's always something that we interpret. It's always something that we make sense of. And in order to do that, wow, we have, some mistaken ideas, mistaken beliefs, some fears, some stuff that we have to get through. And that's always the case. And I feel like it actually is an ongoing process because we are humans, we have our brain, we have our processing. And so whenever we process reality, to some extent, we are always going to take on some degree of misunderstanding. And so we just always need to clear it. It's like the thing from Harry Potter, constant vigilance. When you're doing inner work, when you're following higher guidance, you have to be constantly vigilant so that you ensure that you're not falling into egoic traps, for example, spiritual ego, that you are not allowing also your own understanding to dwell above spirit. We have here this spiritual energy, this calling greater than what's going on in the earth. We have this higher aspect of self, bigger than the smaller self, right? We even have here a full body of the self, which is still smaller than the part of the greater self, right? So it's coming through the cards just so very, very clear, and we have to be aware of it. And I'm being guided to share how I randomly saw a clip yesterday where there was a YouTuber reacting to someone who is the CEO of Scentbird. And Scentbird is this company with perfumes that you've probably seen a lot of influencers reference and advertise for and so on. And beyond that company, apparently the Scentbird is a spiritual medium of some sort, or calls themselves that. And anyway, I was just seeing them, a clip where they were talking about, of all things, Hitler, and explaining that Hitler wasn't really that bad at a soul level, and that when he moved on into the other realm, he would look at what he'd done on the earth with so much joy. And I was just like, I'm kind of used to it right now. There's so many people out there, but this is not that. There are thousands of years of spiritual traditions and knowledge about energy and metaphysics. There's knowledge of karma, which she was describing as not karma, right? So you can come along and say whatever you want. Basically, I mean, it's we're in that age, right? You have a camera, you have a microphone, just like me, and you could come forward and say everything that you want. But there is a higher truth at play, one that we always need to reference back to, and that higher truth isn't going to change because of what we say. It's like a couple of years ago, there was a again, spiritual teacher, guru here on YouTube that was teaching that there's a complete separation between masculine and feminine. You're either masculine completely or either feminine completely, and there's no being both. Again, flies in the face of thousands of years of spiritual teachings, wisdom traditions, metaphysics, and so on. And so there's a way in which, when we have to engage with this higher world, this inner world, there is knowledge that we can use to reference so that we're not led astray, so that we're not heading in one direction looking back towards another, so that we are not allowing mistaken beliefs, things that maybe sound cool or they sound interesting, or they kind of mesh with something else that we heard but isn't connected to anything fundamental, isn't grounded, right? And here I'm not necessarily talking about those people. I'm talking about you, of course, in your journey, that you need to ensure. You need to kind of reference yourself, ground yourself to certain things, to higher knowledge, to higher guidance and higher wisdom, so that you can stay on path. Not because you're giving your power away to those people or those teachings or those books, but because you are aware that within ourselves, and especially within the lower mind and the brain and our animal self, our ego included, in our personality, we have the means to get ourselves lost, so that we are not following the calling, our own individual calling, or the calling of the times, where we are following something lower and moving according to something that is lower. And we have to be aware of that and take responsibility for keeping ourselves off of that path. And so, Three of Swords upside down. You will have done this to some extent. We all will have, but Spirit is talking to you, right? So you'll have done this to some extent in the past and suffered from this. And Spirit is saying, learn from that experience. Don't set it aside. Take it on. Like, take it on almost like proudly. Take it on. Wear it like a badge of honor and especially learn from it. We have 2 swords, yeah. Okay. We have got 6 of Pentacles. There we go. We have got our major arcana number 17, the Star. Yeah. We've got the Queen of Wands. I love it. Okay. Listen. These are 2 different dynamics. We're going to start from the 3 of Swords. Again, you've done this before. You've been led astray from within. And Spirit wants you to think about that, because very often what we do is the 2 of Swords. We're led astray in a way that brings us to suffering. And then we conclude that we've been led astray because we were listening to something higher. We've been led astray because, I don't know, it's not the times, it's the universe doesn't want it to happen. We're led astray for all kinds of reasons, and we rationalize that process. And we come to a space of the 2 of Swords where we kind of become non-committal or in denial, that we don't want to follow the calling anymore because it led us astray before. And this is very much coming through as you here and now, as you're watching this, that there is some way in which the calling is resounding, you're hearing it, it is guiding you to a certain person, a certain place, a certain project, a certain cause, a certain endeavor, a certain profession, a certain passion, and so on and so forth, right? A certain kind of knowledge also is coming through. It's guiding you to that, but because you got burnt before, you're standing here with like the 2 of Swords and going, well, I don't know, let me stay out of it. Or you're not moving forward as passionately, as determinedly, with as much resolve and conviction as you would if it hadn't been for those past experiences. Now, you may or may not be aware, especially since Upside Down, you may or may not be aware of how that past suffering has shaped and molded your approach now. But Spirit is saying that the call is resounding now, and you're now living in a time that can answer you. It can meet you. Whatever you put in, you can get it back now. And it's not personal. It really has to do with the time. So for some of you, this is literally 6 years ago. Think back. Where were you 6 years ago? What were you doing? What were you working on? And it may not have worked back then, but it can work now. And for the others of you in general, Spirit would say within the last 6 years, something that we tried to take on, it didn't work. And instead of bringing more wealth, more abundance, it brought us to a lower position. Something was lost. There was a big cost to it. But that project, that endeavor, that relationship, that dynamic, that situation is destined. And again, the star also represents the higher self. This is the 8-pointed star that represents the higher self. And so you're destined to express and to live as the higher version of yourself on some level, to some degree in this life. And that's the calling. Again, you're being called into you. You're being called into living out a higher state of being. And so that's going to happen no matter what, because it is destined. And it's going to happen in a way where you're going to be able to sustain it in the earthly realm. Again, whatever energy is poured into the land, is poured into the earthly realm, into earthly dynamics, it will come back to you. It will come back to create abundance. And so Spirit is saying, come into confidence. Come into confidence about you. We're back into the wand suit. This is owning your fire, owning your energy. Whatever your resolve is, whatever your passion is, whatever you delight in, be honest with yourself about it and pursue it, because that's the calling. But again, do not pursue it according to external things. Only pursue it according to internal things. Queen of Wands, the Queen's suit, the Queen's level for me is about embodiment. So this is about you embodying your own spiritual energy, your own fire, your own drive, your own calling in this world. And we never, ever, ever do that. Okay, wrong deck. Calling, yeah? We never, ever, ever do that for anyone else. We do it for ourselves. It's like if you were to follow this calling based on what's going on in the world, based on things that are external to you, you would be playing with the wrong deck. You would be approaching it from the energy of the wrong deck. But if you go at it from a space and a place where you're following that inner calling and moving into the greater version of yourself, and also trusting that you will gain in power as you follow the calling, you'll gain whatever it is you need to be able to manifest it, to live it out. As you do that, then we have silence. Silence is a source of great strength. Don't waste words on people who deserve your silence. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Exactly. Then you go. I actually forget the setup, which is fine, because it's it's departure. You erase the prior setup and you start over, and you start over from a place of self-connection and self-awareness. And this is also a message for some of you: don't waste time thinking about the past, what went wrong, who didn't understand, who didn't support you, what you put in and it didn't work out. Don't waste time on that. Go into the silence, go into you, go into greater self-awareness, and that is where you're going to really meet this calling. Take it in, embody it, and move forward. That's the task, I want to say, at this time, at least the primary task in departure, in setting a very original and authentic value-based direction for you and your life at this time. So my love, that was the reading. Those were the messages that I have for you here and now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that they served you. May you be blessed always and in all ways. And of course, if you want to follow along with the healing, you can find me over on Patreon. Lots of love. Bye.